And now, making their way into the arena, hailing from the great pro wrestling state of Massachusetts, they are the hosts of the Top of the Cage podcast. Here are Bill and Juice.
And thank you again, Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, always making us sound so good. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the super producer. I am Bill, joined always by my tag team partner, my wrestling confidant. He is the future booking genius and the prince of pro wrestling podcasts. He is Justin Juice Cannon.
Boom.
Boom, baby. Juice, our guest tonight is again somebody that you have introduced me to, somebody who works outside of the East Coast, which is where I mainly find myself within indie wrestling, but you are a well-traveled man yourself. And you introduced me to the one MK Bandit.
Yeah, he's a great dude. First time I saw him was very first Vegas show I went to. It's the FSW show, and it was Toy Leona and Juicy Finale's last match as tag team champs and as part of the MK Army because they turned on him, and they turned face by turning on him. And that's actually one of our most popular reels too on our Instagram, but we'll get to that later. Our Instagram where you can watch that reel. But yeah, MK's the man, one of the just dashly heel managers, but he's also just a great dude, always nice dude. He even said like we didn't like know each other in Vegas, but he'd always like if he walked by, he just says hi to everyone that's there.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a great dude. I mean, after this interview, you guys will hear about the passion he brings. I love talking to people who love what they do and are so passionate for it. And it seems like so many people within the wrestling business have passion for wrestling and everything else they do. And MK does so much shit. Like he is a very talented man, a well-traveled man. And, I don't even think I want to hold you back from this interview any longer. I think I want you to meet the man. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is MK Bandit.
Hello, Top of the Cage listeners. I am Juice, joined by my co-host Bill, and we have a special guest this episode. The MK Bandit himself is here to talk to us and just give us an insider look on all things managing and just so many other aspects of wrestling because he just does everything.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. Of course, MK. We'll just start with the simple question. You sent us your little background and you just do everything, not just wrestling. You do so many things in wrestling. Owning, managing, commentating, announcing, but you're also an engineer. You commentate football and basketball. How do you balance all that? How do you swing it?
It's really difficult. First of all, you have to have a passion for everything you do. The thing that I love about all the businesses and the entities that I'm involved in is I have a passion to do it from a very young age, and I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm having fun. So it's like going from one part of fun to the other. Now there are bad days and good days in anything, but for really, engineering is a passion of mine. Sports is a passion of mine completely and 100%. So it's great to be paid to do something that you love. And so honestly, once you have that, it's very easy for me to go from here to working on a promotion to working on my character or things like that, because I love it all. It's all part of the process and it's a lot of fun. And I mean, I can only hope that there's other people out there that have as much fun with life as I do.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I myself actually produce podcasts outside of doing this podcast, just this one. And I completely agree. Like I caught that podcasting bug, and it's just something that I have passion for, and just something that, keeps me fulfilled, keeps me entertained. I mean, I actually myself am an engineer too. A little less passionate about, but the podcast and stuff, I love it.
On the hierarchy of fun things, engineering isn't at the top of the list.
Yep, you can definitely attest to that too, I'm sure. But yeah, like just like we were saying though, like just hearing about how much passion you have for these things is great. And I'm sure, as a commentator for the University of Utah football, you have passion for that. So we just wanted to ask quick too, what do you think they're going to do for the end of the year? How will they do?
I'll tell you right now, I really think, this is just my own opinion, seeing what they did to Oregon twice last year, where you've got, they beat them, what was it, 72 in 2 games, 72-14 or something like that. A lot of time teams get snake bit, and a lot of the players this year on the Oregon team were on that team last year. And so it's almost like if there's one thing that goes wrong or Utah does something extremely well, the team tends to be like, here we go again. And so if Utah can just keep the mistakes to a minimum, I just don't think they can recover because they're playing such a team. But if they can keep the mistakes to a minimum, I really think they're going to run away with this. I really think that they've just, the teams match up. To give you a quick analogy, George Foreman fought Joe Frazier, and their styles meshed so much, he wiped him out in 2 rounds in the first fight and 5 rounds the second fight. But then Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali go to 3, a 15-round, a 12-round, a 15-round fight. Their styles meshed. I really think that Oregon's offense and Utah's defense and vice versa mesh to the point it's in the advantage to Utah. So I think Utah's going to win. I think they're going to play USC in the Pac-12 championship game. I think they're going to beat them, and I think they're going to play someone. Well, obviously they'll play someone, but I think they're going to play in the Rose Bowl, and it's too far to call how they're going to do there. But I really think that's their path.
When they play USC again, last time they played, it was only 1-point win, right?
Yeah, it was just a 2-point conversion. Yep. If you look at same season rematches, the percentage is not in their favor. But I really feel that they were kind of caught off guard by their offense, and the USC offense really exposed their defense, and they had a real trouble the next couple of games after that until they were able to figure out what they were doing wrong and kind of correct it. So I really think that, number one, in that first game, you had our defensive coordinator, Morgan Scalley, being out-coached and outmaneuvered. I don't think that's going to happen again. And so I really believe that they're going to beat them probably by 7 to 10 points.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, you know more than I do about it. I do love college football. Mainly, even though we're a wrestling podcast, I wanted to bring it up Utah because, one, I said I'm a college football fan in general. 2, Utah was like the first team. I think the first time I played the NCAA video games, the team I coached first was Utah.
There you go. You remember what year that was?
NCAA 14, the very last NCAA game.
Yeah, so they had a decent team then, not too good, not too bad. They were in the Pac-12, so I remember that year. Yeah.
Yeah, I think their overall was like it was pretty well. I think it didn't take long to rebound them because sometimes I used to pick UMass Amherst because I went there one year and they were really bad. So coaching them, that's multiple seasons of rebuilding, while Utah is
Utah reloads now.
Yeah. Well, Utah, I think very first season I got into the top 25. It took me 3 seasons of UMass.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Now really started in wrestling. So how is it different? I mean, obviously managers in wrestling, they usually have very similar training, but how did you always know you wanted to manage, or is there any part of you that wanted to go into wrestling?
I was very happy being a ring announcer. I started doing commentary and ring announcing. I was very happy being a ring announcer. I loved it. I mean, I was getting paid to go out, and I was being paid as much as workers to go out and just ring announce. And so I was very happy doing that. And, I was a little bit about my background is I was a child actor and a child performer. And so I had a little bit of background of knowing how to talk in front of a camera, stuff like that. So when the opportunity came where a promoter came to me and said, hey, the guy who was supposed to play the bad guy attorney, he's not showing up, and you're the only other guy here in a suit. I'll handle ring announcing. Can you do this? And, being a wrestling fan, that's everybody's dream to be pulled off of the bench. And I figured it was a one and done. And I did it and was good enough at it that they asked me back. And just like you were saying, you get the podcast bug. I was like, I'm never going back to ring announcing again. And that's how it happened. And then as time goes on, you realize that in order to be a decent manager, you have to be trained as a wrestler. You have to work as a wrestler, and you have to learn the business. And that's what I did. And then you realize you got to put your body in shape to take the proper bumps, because you're going to get bumped around. And if you don't, then you're doing something wrong. So I put my body in shape to take those bumps. I'm constantly learning. I'm the best part about wrestling is every match I learn something different. Every promo I figure I can do something better, and it's something that I'm never going to know everything about, and so I love it because I'm always learning. That's a long answer to no. I didn't realize I was going to be a manager, but now that I am, I love it.
So if somebody is coming up in the wrestling world as a manager right now, what are some of the important things that people should remember when they are a manager?
The first thing before you do anything is you have to be trained as a wrestler. You absolutely have to understand what goes on in the ring. And I don't mean trained as do a proper hip toss and learn how to take a pile driver. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ring psychology, shine, heat, comeback, finish, understand hot tags, understand the psychology behind it. Understand that your job in there is to be basically the ring post until you're needed. And you're to forward a storyline and the story the wrestlers are telling. You're not a participant until that time you're needed. That's number one. So understand your role, but you've got to be trained. You absolutely have to be trained. Number two, be disciplined. And your best asset to the person you're working with is your mouth. You are the mouthpiece of that person. And so that you have to be disciplined, and you got to find professional wrestling in everyday things and cut a promo on it. Every day, that person in the office bothers you, or you see a conflict between two people. Imagine a pro wrestling scenario between that and cut a promo while you're in the bathroom or while you're in the car. People got to think I'm crazy because I'm going down the road cutting promos about stuff I saw that day, because you're going to be called upon to do that. You're going to be put with something you know nothing about, and you've got to be called on. And the last advice I give you is you have to watch JJ Dillon, you have to watch Gary Hart, and you have to watch Bobby Heenan. You watch those three guys and understand what they're trying to do. And I don't just mean watch and memorize the lines. Understand what they're trying to do with each promo. If you can do that, you will be a proper manager.
And you just named three of the greatest managers that have ever existed within the world of professional wrestling. I mean, guys like that are people that I find inspiration in. I'm definitely a big manager guy. Love seeing those old clips of those guys. Unfortunately, a little bit before my time, all of them. But I even right now with Paul Heyman, like Paul Heyman to me is kind of like that guy. He knows what to say. He knows how to make his guys look good. He knows how to make the other person, put them over, but at the same time bury him a little bit. It's incredible to see them work.
Oh yeah, Paul Lee is amazing. I love what he does, but I'm going to tell you right. This is just being honest. He's Einstein. And I'm working down here. So it's not that JJ Dillon and not that Gary Hart and Bobby Heenan were not working at that level. I think they were playing a little bit to a different audience. And so it's more of that Saturday morning type audience. That's more something I can understand. Paul Heyman's, it's like when you watch him work to try and figure out why he says things and how he does things, you might as well be trying to figure out how Einstein figured out relativity. I mean, he is the man. To give, proper credit where proper is due, I am a firm believer that without Paul Heyman, pro wrestling would have gone the way of roller derby. There would be no professional wrestling. Had ECW not hit at that time, and had he not changed the presentation of the business, there would be no Attitude Era, and there would be no pro wrestling now. It would basically be, it would have gone the way the old roller derby did. It would have just died a slow, painful death.
That's a really good point, actually. I am somebody who kind of grew up at the end of 90s wrestling, and like he really brought the violence, the hard-hitting action, and even in a way like the athleticism. I mean, you saw guys like Sabu and Rob Van Dam, like those are two guys I think many wrestlers, the guys you see now are putting on these great technical matches, athletic matches, say, yeah, those are two of the guys that inspired me to kind of be the wrestler I am today.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the thing that people tend to forget, because when you think of ECW, you tend to think of the chair shots and the this and then that, the other thing. But what people forget, and if those of you have the WWE Network, abroad, or if you watch on Peacock, the storytelling was what made those characters. When you had Jerry Lynn and you had Rob Van Dam, people forget that they were fighting over who was the next big thing. So it was, if you remember, it was, Rob Van Dam, the whole fucking show. And then it was Jerry Lynn, the new fucking show. So they were in a battle for dominance of being the next guy. So there was a storyline there. It wasn't just two guys doing crazy stuff. There was a reason why they were doing it, And then you had, and you had Jerry Lynn fighting for the ECW fan, and you had Rob Van Dam, Mr. Monday Night, going on Monday Night Raw, saying this is just an indie place and Monday night's where it's at. So you had that storyline there was what made those matches so good. So people who don't understand that really are cheated of the real. They see the sizzle, but they're not eating the steak. And ultimately, that's what pro wrestling is. It's storytelling. And if you're not telling a story, then you're doing it wrong.
We definitely say that just over and over again. It's all about storytelling, the characters, and less about obviously the in-ring action's great, but it's not about flips and stuff and what you can do. It's about telling the story and nuances to tell that. Going back a little bit, we brought up Paul Heyman, obviously. We brought up the three guys you just said, Dillon, Heenan, and Hart. Who do you think is the greatest wrestling manager of all time?
I think, it's hard to compare people of different eras, but I would say of modern history, and what I mean by modern history is I'm talking, we're not going to go back to the 50s to the Grand Wizard of Wrestling or something like that. Great guy, but it's hard to compare people with different eras. For me, without a doubt, you would have to look at someone like Gary Hart. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't so much what he knew the business from the behind the scenes. He ran, he agented. He was such a good hand to WCCW and then the WCW that, in my opinion, he was the best manager, like, overall. But when you talk in front of the camera, Bobby Heenan.
No, that's fair. And the list of clientele that Heenan also managed to, just really puts that repertoire so much higher than so many other people. And it's so funny that, like, we're talking about, a lot of heel managers, because rarely in wrestling we see that faces might have a manager for like a match or two, but you don't really see it often. In terms of like storytelling and just as a manager yourself, why do you think faces having managers is never really long term?
I think because there's that whole thing that the army of one, a good hero. When you really think about it, if you think about that Sergeant York, it's the last guy standing. It's the last guy in the battlefield. I'm the last guy fighting for the rights of the whatever. You've got that mentality. When you bring in another entity, unless there may be a tag team, but manager and face manager and face wrestler, in my opinion, doesn't work, because you don't have the army of one mentality. And that's why I think that it kind of goes. Whereas here's what it boils down to. As a heel, I have to throw as many obstacles in front of the ordinary guy for him to overcome those obstacles. Because without Lex Luthor, what would Superman be doing? Solving crimes, like, oh, he caught the car thief. Who cares? But when you have that threat of world domination, and you've got this whole horde of Lex Luthor's this and the kryptonite that, you've just taken a guy that can fly and made him a superhero. The job as a heel is to take my guy, project the heat that I get onto him, and make the face look superhuman. So when you take a manager and put him with a face, it's going to be hard for me to elevate him, because anything I do is going to really take away from his heroism. Meaning, if he's out there getting his ass kicked and I run in there and pull the guy off him, he's a pussy. And people are going to go, well, why didn't he just Hulk up? But if I'm a heel and my guy's getting beat up and I yank the guy off him, the tone, now listen to the difference in tone. That guy's a pussy. Hey, that guy's a pussy. Don't let him do that. But it's the same action. And I think that's kind of why the face worker and face manager has a real short half-life. And that's what they tried to do. They tried to do that with Sonny. You know, Sonny, Missy Hyatt are natural heels. They were heel valets, and they tried to make them pretty women, which they were, and faces, and it didn't really work because anything that they did to elevate their guys made their guys look like, why are you relying on a woman to help you out?
That's a great point, because that also reminds me of Miss Elizabeth too in this short.
Yeah.
Like it just takes away from Randy, and then it just doesn't hit the same.
No, it doesn't. And that's the other thing too, is like what they try to do with Miss Elizabeth is always put her in peril, and she was always the damsel in distress. And then, that's that. And then Macho Man had to save her, which again, like I said, is a good way of doing that. But I don't see myself in that role. I'm not a small guy, 6'2", 240. I'm not going to go, hey, don't hurt me. Yeah, and have someone save me. Although that would be pretty woke and progressive. You know, that would be pretty woke and progressive, is to put the big guy in there with the little 130-pound female worker that comes and saves me. I mean, it could happen. Stranger things have happened in the wrestling world.
Another big part of a manager's appeal too is, you're working ringside too. And that, involves getting the crowd involved, getting interactions with fans. Do you have any like standout moments with a fan, or any interactions that are memorable for you?
Oh, it's too many to state, but coming up when I was in Lubbock, Texas, it was one of those things where the bad guy attorney turns the tables on the promotion, and he's going to now be the referee for the big heavyweight championship match. And he's doing the quick counts and the slow counts, when his guy's down, type of thing. And this old lady hopped over the guardrail because I'd taken a bump. They'd thrown me out of the ring, and she jumped on my back. Like, like the big brother type thing. And I'm like, what's going on? And another fan had to come out and take her off. And she was like screaming and yelling. And I remember, and so that was when I was coming up. So that was like 10 years ago. And right then I went, oh, okay, I got to do more of that. Whatever I did, I got to do more of that. And then the other time that I will never, ever forget is I was doing the federal director gimmick with Tommy Dreamer in House of Hardcore. And we're in the ECW Arena, packed to the gills like the old days. And Dreamer's fighting Joey Mercury in a First Blood match. So I get out there and cut a promo. Donald Trump sent me, and I don't like violence, and if the first hint of blood, I'm going to stop this match. And so sure enough, ref bump, Joey Mercury's bleeding from his mouth, and everybody's looking to me like match is over, right? And I just sat there. So then, of course, all hell breaks loose. And then, Nick Aldis comes out. They wipe the blood off Joey Mercury. Shane Douglas turns on. Shane Douglas comes out. Looks like he's going to save everybody. He turns on Dreamer. It just goes. The whole place goes nuts. Dreamer ends up bleeding. Everybody's beating up Dreamer. I run into the ring, and we all do this type of thing. And there was just anything lying around was thrown into the ring. And then what freaked me out more than anything is they picked up the guardrails and like all they had was them zip tied, okay, together. They just had them zip tied. So when they moved the guardrails, all 4 guardrails moved to the ring, and people were getting up trying to get on the apron, and Atlas Security, those guys, the real guys, had to come and pull them away. Now, Dreamer had told me, we don't want you right now associated with any one wrestler or faction. So you wait until they go through And then you go into the entrance like anybody else. So they all leave, and then I have to go by myself through Philly crowd to get to the back. It was Atlas security put themselves around me, and just stuff was flying. And when I got through the back, the first person I saw was Bubba, and he goes, and I'm like, yes, I do belong in pro wrestling.
That is some like top tier heel shit right there. Like that
was fun.
like if I was the performer in that scenario, I would just be like, hell fucking yeah, we fucking did that.
Oh yeah, well and the thing about it is when you rewatch, if you watch it, I think it was House of Hardcore 36 or 37. When you rewatch that, when the camera followed me to the back, and the look on my face, I was trying not to show that I was afraid, but I really was afraid. And I try to invoke that feeling again, because it was the perfect look of me kind of looking around like, holy shit. And it's something that I remember on, and I try and bring up at the right moments.
So, I mean, you just brought up Bubba and your time in House Hardcore and working with guys like Tommy, Bubba, and Mercury. How was it managing Bubba Ray, which I think is perfect that you do manage him, because in my background, I have my Bubba Ray signed table.
There you go. I love it. Yeah. I'm going to tell you something. I owe almost everything I am to Bubba, because that time in Destiny when he became world champion, it was his 5th world champion. I didn't know shit. Well, I still don't know shit. I'm nobody, but I knew even less back then. And you don't have to ask Bubba where you stand with him. He doesn't play the pro wrestling politics. If you fuck up, he's going to tell you. He will let you know. But the thing about it is, it comes from a place of love for you and the business. He is only telling you that to elevate you, to elevate the business, because he doesn't want to be associated with a bad indie guy. So he sees it as his job to bring you from where you are, from here to there. So he is always going to tell you the way it is. And it's not just, hey, you screwed up, you're an idiot. It's not that he's ever said that to me, but he'll say, you should have when you did this. One of the things that he taught me that was very, very valuable is when I first came out as a manager, I would jaw jack with the crowd, which is okay, but I did it too much. Bubba was the one that in the back got very upset with me during a match in Albuquerque and said, your time to jaw jack is when you're coming from the entrance to the ring, and then all you're doing outside of the ring is heightening what's going on there. And every once in a while, if you want to turn and say something to him, that's fine. But you're really there that when your guy gets hit in the head, you go, oh, you grab it. That's what you're doing, so that if people are focusing on you, you're basically telling them what's going on there. And that was so valuable, because up until that time, I kind of had that attitude like I would watch a guy like Fonzie, who was very unique. Fonzie's style cannot be done by anybody, where you're just blowing a whistle and going crazy. That's not a style that I could do. And I don't think that style would really work today, especially at an indie level. And so Bubba taught me so much. Bubba also was the one that taught me that he said this, and I'm going to say it here, and I hope your fans aren't offended. But what he said about a heel cutoff, when you do a heel cutoff, it should be like you're masturbating and you're just about to come and your mom walks in the room. And when he told me that, it literally all came together up here. Like, yes, I get it. And this is, so when my timing has to be that perfect. When I jump up on the apron or I grab the referee's leg, the fans have got to be just ready to come. And your mom opened that door.
That might be one of the best analogies I've heard for anything ever.
Yeah, it's also one of the best lines spoken on this show ever.
Hey, it does it not describe a heel cut off?
It does. Bill's right. It's a perfect analogy. It's I just didn't expect you to go there. Even when you said don't be offended, that's not where I expected it. Makes a lot of sense. So I
Yeah.
mean, talking about things you learned from Bubba, but also let's go more in managing people that more recent. So you managed MK Army,
Yeah.
both currently and of course the last iteration with Leona
Yeah.
and Finau.
Yeah.
So how was the MK Army formed, and how's the old one formed, and how's the new guys? Is it Mana and Koa?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. AJ Mana and Koa. I'm of the opinion that it's best to have a band of, especially at the indie level, you should have a faction or a band of bad guys. And the reason why is very practical, because I can't always be at every indie show. They can't always be at every indie show. But if you have 2 or 3 guys, you can always have that storyline going. I am a huge Kiss fan, as anybody that knows me knows. And Joe DeFalco, the promoter, said, well, we were going from the heel factory to what do we do? And it's like, I don't know. And he came up and said, let's do like the MK Army, like the Kiss Army. Let's do that. And I'm going to put you with these guys. And the original was Juicy, Toa, and Tito Escondido. And then Tito, of course, goes to New Japan, so left me with Juicy and Toa, and they were just the best to work with. I mean, honestly, and so when you're with someone, when you have that chemistry, and we worked so well together. And what I really liked about working with them more than anything is not only are they legit scary individuals, like they will like snap you in half, but the fans want to like them. But they don't, because of not necessarily what they're doing, but what I'm making them do. So when they eventually see the error in their ways and beat me up like they did, the fans, it's finally, I can like these guys. Oh, it's so great. You know what I mean? They don't have a complete disdain for them. It's, I do the bad things. I put them in positions to do bad things. So the fans, if they want to like them, are like, I want to like them, but they're just, oh, why are they doing that? It's MK. He's the one that's telling them. So when they make that turn, the fans are like, oh, don't you just love this guy? Not unlike Kurt Angle and some of the things that he's done. Do you know what I mean? And they were great to work with. And my job is to elevate them, and I hope everybody I've worked with, I've elevated them. And now, like I said, AJ Mana and Koa, we're going to be working together in a fatal 4-way this Sunday in Las Vegas at Against All Odds. And I've been working with them for about 6 months now, and they're great guys. Same chemistry, and we'll see what happens.
And we are definitely looking forward to that for sure.
It should be good. The one that I'm really looking forward to be honest with you, if I may, is I have a faction in Salt Lake here called the Prophets of Destruction. And on December 3rd, the biggest show in Utah history is going to be happening here at Trolley Square. And you're going to have Diamond Dallas Page there, Eric Bischoff. And if you look, I'm not going to reveal too much, but first of all, you got Ray's going to be there, Ray Lloyd, of course. And you've got, Eric Bischoff, DDP, and a lot of these great guys from WCW and wrestling generally be there. And the thing that's going to be that's fun is all these people that are there in some way, shape, or form I've worked with in the past. And as Manny, the promoter, is putting this together, it's going to be fun to bring little bits and pieces of parts of my feuds with these people to put together into one big culmination, which is really fun for me because it's like 12 years of working in the business. My paths have crossed with these guys. So it'll be fun to work with Glacier again and maybe get kicked in the face, or it'll be fun to work with Eric Bischoff again and DDP, and maybe he punches me, or maybe, who knows. But the point is, or maybe I get on, the point is it's going to be exciting because, again, it's all about storytelling. So people who know MK, who know me from Destiny, who know me from FSW, if there's going to be a lot of Easter eggs for them to pick up on, like, oh, I remember that type of thing. That's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds pretty cool, honestly. And just the fact that you can even say that you've crossed paths with some of those legends like you just named, I mean, that's wild. So crazy.
Well, it's been very, I've been very lucky, very lucky.
Well, I think that'll be a good little lead into our last question here, MK. Now,
Mhm.
typically, a lot of the interviews we do are with in-ring talent, guys who are currently wrestling. But for you, it's a little different because you are a manager.
Yeah.
So the question is typically a dream match for them, but we're going to ask you, what is a dream wrestler or a tag team or a faction of all time that you wished you could have managed?
Well, that's a good one. I think about it all the time. And what I really I'm going to give you two answers. There's like when I look at how good the Dudley boys were in ECW, you had Joel Gertner as their mouthpiece, and then you had Sign Guy as the hype man. You know what I mean? And then you had Bubba Ray and Devon as the talent in the ring in Spite. And what I would love to have done is back in that day, been a part of that in some way, doing something. I don't know what I would have done, but do something. Maybe their legal representation or something like that. I would have loved to have done something like that in ECW, especially, I was there at the Hera Arena with the infamous, promo, and I've done so many homages to that. I would have loved to have done that. And then, but the one dream match, I know this sounds really weird, is that I never was able to work with New Jack. I was always on the other side of New Jack. It was always me and so-and-so versus New Jack, me and so-and-so versus New Jack. You know what I mean? Or he was on the show and I would have absolutely loved. And I know he didn't have a manager, and I know, but that's what I think would have been great is if I could have been with New Jack, it would have been really funny to have this. It would be almost like Gary Hart and Abdul the Butcher in WCCW, where you have this wild man and then you have the straight guy that's trying to control the wild man. You could have a modern day urban type, where you've got the white guy attorney, almost an OJ Simpson and his legal team type of thing going on there. And I just wish I could have done that. And because Jack was always so good to me. He's such a sweetheart. He was always nice to me. And I would have loved to have worked with him at that level.
That's two great, unique teams too. And New Jack too. I mean, actually, for everything they always say about him, I feel like I've always heard too, like just people say that he was a good guy, like, behind the scenes, and nothing usually too bad.
He doesn't owe me anything. I am an indie guy, haven't been anywhere, haven't done anything. And New Jack's been everywhere. He always treated me with respect. In every match we ever worked, he made it sure that I was taken care of. Was he stiff? Yes. But how do you not be stiff with a toy dinosaur and you whack someone on the head with it? I mean, let's be real. Either you make it look like shit or you club him. Did I live? Yeah. Did it tickle? No. But am I happy to take it? Hell yeah. And he was always, so I don't know what happened with those people. I can only speak about my experience. He was always professional. He was always nice. And it was always business, business, business.
Now, everyone that you just named are all inactive wrestlers. So usually this question is a part two if the wrestler says their dream match to somebody from back in the day. So a current active wrestler, tag team or faction, and they can be, within a company, or they can be an indie guy too. Same question, but with somebody that's current.
Okay, this is the thing. What I would really like to happen is me and Sam Adonis have been feuding with Psycho Clown for almost 3 years now. He is another tremendous athlete. I mean, to me, unbelievably storyteller, unbelievably moves, smart. I would love to be part of Psycho Circus. If I could go to AAA right now and Conan said, "What do you want to do? Write your own ticket." I would be like, "Put me with Pagano, put me with Psycho Clown. I want to be that. I'll be whatever you want me to do. I'll be the court jester, whatever." But I'd love to work with Psycho Clown as is, because like I said, once again, I'm always working against him, which is fun, but I want to work with him.
I'll be honest. We actually had a conversation not too long ago with one of our guests about AAA. I know who Psycho Clown is, and definitely have seen clips online, but I'm not the biggest follower of AAA. But that seems really interesting, and definitely a name that you don't hear very often for something like that.
Let me tell you something about Psycho Clown, how awesome this guy is, okay? If I may. Do I have time? Okay.
Of course.
Me and Sam against Psycho Clown in Dallas. We were following up on a big feud that we started in Camden, New Jersey. Now you got to understand, this is during, like, it would have been September of 20. So things are just opening up, okay? We have a match. Now remember, this is a pandemic still going on, still fresh. People wearing masks in the crowd. We're out there working. Him and Sam put together a tremendous match. They worked outside in the crowd, bleeding during a pandemic. And at one point, his mask is ripped. He's bleeding. Sam takes his head and goes boom against the wall. And you guys remember Fight Club where you saw the face? It was, and I'm looking at this thing and you just see this blood dripping down the wall. And I'm like, who else in this day and age has that much dedication and no fear to put the business in front of yourself and give these fans something super special? That's the type of person he is.
Yeah, he's one of the few AAA guys I do know. I even actually have a 8x10 signed photo of him. That's awesome. And that's all I hear about AAA, or when I do watch AAA, they have so many guys like that lay it all on the line in order to entertain. And they know that that's mainly what they are. They are entertainers. Of course, wrestlers, there's the athlete side. They are athletes, but they're entertainers first. I mean, we already said it. It's all about storytelling.
We're storytellers.
Story.
No one tells a better story right now than La Empresa versus Psycho Circus. If you're not familiar with it, I invite the fans to kind of follow that storyline and that faction. It's amazing storytelling. It's again, like I said, let's just be the moves and everything are great. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, I'm not one of those anti-flippy guys. There's room in the zoo for every animal. Okay. Matt Robles personally, MK Bandit personally loves the storytelling, and I like the combination of storytelling, and that's what you're getting in AAA.
All right, awesome. Thank you, MK. I think that's time to wrap it up. Is there anything else? I mean, thank you for coming in today. And there's anything you want to plug and promote, socials or upcoming shows?
Yeah, real quick, look for me on social media. I'm at the MK Bandit, and then Matthew Robles, my shoot name. The Facebook. I'm going to be performing this Sunday in FSW, but the big show that I think everybody should be looking forward to is December 3rd here in Salt Lake City at Trolley Square. Devotion Championship Wrestling. You've got Eric Bischoff. You've got Glacier. You've got DDP, Frankie Chiazzo, Sin Bodhi. They're all going to be there. It's a stacked card. It's the 4th anniversary. Everybody go. And then lastly, McNeil Engineering is where I work. We're actually now with the NIL, name, image, and likeness, supporting 2 guys. Watch them. They're going to be in the NFL. They're going to be top stars. Jaquindon Jackson, the quarterback for the running back, and Keaton Bills, the left guard. Watch them, University of Utah football.
All right. We will definitely be watching them. We are definitely people who, especially because we're both big fantasy guys, we like looking at the rookies and seeing people.
Oh, I'm telling you, they're going to be, they will be in the NFL. And they're going to succeed.
Very nice. All right, MK. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. And we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, that was the MK Bandit himself. And that was a really it's really fun chat with just one of my favorite lines we've ever had. But also just really informative. We really get a deep dive into managing, something that we really haven't went into that much in interviews or even just normal podcast episodes. So it was great to really get a handle on that and learn more about it from an expert, a guy I could consider an expert. I mean, guy's managed all over the indies. He's done so much, and he's also learned under some of the best names in the business, like Bubba and Tommy Dreamer and guys like that.
Yeah, it He dropped two good lines. I want to say the two good lines. First off, that masturbating line was fucking hilarious. Like, we had our mics muted, so you couldn't hear us laughing, but I was howling. Like, I thought that was so funny because, like, I didn't know what to expect because he was like, I don't want to offend anybody by saying this. So I was like, Jesus, what's about this? What's about to be said on the podcast? And then he said that. I fucking lost my shit. But I also like the analogy that he used for wrestling being for everybody, that there's enough animals in the zoo. And I again, like, that's a phrase that I haven't heard, but we always say it all the time. There's something in wrestling for everybody. And I think MK, really personifies that too. Just, always a great manager. And he's worked so many different facets of the business with so many different people in the business. Like, you just can't deny just the talent and experience that MK has. And truly, it was an honor to have him on. And I really hope that we can have him on again soon. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, you can keep up with MK Bandit on his socials. Those will be linked in the show notes. But you can also talk to us on social media too. Juice teased it a little bit in the beginning with our Instagram. So, Juice, why don't you let the people know where they can find us on social media?
Yeah, on Insta at well, I usually start with Twitter. I'm just getting spinned around here. Twitter, I'll start with Twitter at capital T, capital O, capital T, capital C, underscore, capital P, lowercase o, lowercase d. Instagram, where you can see that reel of MK just getting beat up by just two meaty men he used to manage. TOTC underscore POD, all lowercase. Follow us, interact with us, do it all.
Do all the things, yes. And as we come crashing down to the map on this episode of Top of the Cage, we want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you are listening to us on Apple or Spotify and you do not leave us a 5-star review, that means that specifically you, that person not leaving us that 5-star review, will not get 5-star content. And that is just a fact.
Fact.
And again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.